The British pound is the oldest currency still in use on Earth. It has survived plagues, revolutions, 2 world wars, and the collapse of the largest empire in human history. For over a century, it was the currency the world trusted most, the anchor of global trade, the benchmark against which all other money was measured. And then it wasn't. Within a few decades, sterling went from dominant to dependent, from the center of global finance to a secondary player clinging to relevance. Now, with the dollar itself showing cracks, the question no one wants to ask is simple. Can the pound survive a reserve currency collapse, or will it be the first casualty? Welcome to the financial system. Control the money, control the history. And remember, simple is never easy. To understand where the pound is going, you have to understand where it came from. In 1694, England was a second-rate power. Spain had its silver. France had the largest army in Europe. The Dutch had the world's most advanced banking system. England had debts, failed wars, and a king who couldn't borrow. That year, Parliament approved the creation of the Bank of England. The idea was simple. Wealthy investors would lend money to the crown in exchange for government bonds paying steady interest. Taxes on ordinary citizens guaranteed repayment. It was a revolution disguised as paperwork. For the first time, England could borrow reliably and cheaply, and that meant it could outfight any rival, not with better soldiers, but with deeper credit. France defaulted repeatedly. Spain declared bankruptcy 4 times. Britain just kept borrowing and winning. By the 19th century, sterling wasn't just Britain's currency, it was the world's. The City of London became the financial center of the globe. British banks financed railways in Argentina, mines in South Africa, and plantations across the Caribbean. Sterling was the currency of choice for international trade. British consuls and gunboats ensured that debts were repaid. And in 1821, Britain formalized the gold standard, tying the pound to gold at a fixed rate. That single act projected an image of permanence and trust that no other currency could match. Investors worldwide flocked to sterling assets, knowing their money could be converted to gold on demand. Britain didn't just hold the reserve currency. It had built the financial operating system of the modern world. Every nation that wanted access to global trade had to play by London's rules. But empires built on credit carry a hidden flaw. They depend on confidence. And confidence, once cracked, doesn't heal easily. The first fracture came with the First World War. Britain was spending £2.5 million every single day to fight Germany. The gold standard was quietly suspended. Money was no longer backed by metal. It was backed by faith in a government bleeding gold to fund trenches. To sustain itself, Britain turned to the United States. Firms like J.P. Morgan became the financial lifeline, arranging vast loans and managing purchases of weapons, food, and raw materials. By 1918, the war was won, but the financial balance of power had shifted permanently. Britain entered the war as the world's creditor. It left as a debtor. And the United States, flush with gold, began its rise to financial supremacy. What happened next was one of the worst financial miscalculations in modern history. In 1925, Winston Churchill, then Chancellor of the Exchequer, forced Britain back onto the gold standard at its old pre-war value. The British economy had been devastated. Its industrial base was weakened, its debts towering. Restoring the pound at its old parity was like forcing a broken limb back into place without healing it first. The result was deflation, mass unemployment, and crippling unrest. Britain was pretending to be what it no longer was, and the markets knew it. The pound held its face value, but the economy behind it was hollowing out. Then came the Second World War, and this time the damage was terminal. Britain liquidated its foreign investments, sold its gold, and borrowed staggering sums from America through Lend-Lease. By 1945, sterling liabilities to foreigners were 3 to 4 times larger than British gold reserves. The Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944 formalized what the war had already decided. The dollar was crowned the world's reserve currency. Sterling was given a secondary role, pegged to the dollar, which was pegged to gold. Britain went from setting the rules to following someone else's. But the real death blow wasn't Bretton Woods. It was Suez. In 1956, Britain attempted to seize the Suez Canal from Egypt, a last gasp of imperial ambition. The United States, furious at not being consulted, threatened to dump its sterling reserves and block Britain's access to IMF emergency funds. The pound began to collapse. Within days, Britain was forced into a humiliating withdrawal, not by Egyptian soldiers, not by international law, by money. The moment America weaponized the financial system against its own ally, sterling's fate was sealed. In the 1950s, 55% of global reserves were still held in sterling. Within 20 years, that number had been cut nearly in half. The transition happened faster than anyone had predicted. And the humiliations kept coming. In 1967, Prime Minister Harold Wilson was forced to devalue the pound by 14%, famously assuring the public that the pound in your pocket had not been devalued. It was a lie dressed in careful language. Every saver, every pensioner, every worker paid the price in purchasing power lost overnight. Then came 1992, Black Wednesday. Britain had joined the European exchange rate mechanism, pegging the pound to the German mark at a rate the economy couldn't sustain. A hedge fund manager named George Soros saw the weakness. He bet $10 billion against sterling. The Bank of England spent billions in reserves trying to defend the currency. It failed. In 1 week, Soros made over $1 billion. One private investor broke a national currency. That wasn't a market event, that was a verdict. A verdict that the pound was no longer untouchable. Fast forward to the 21st century, and every crisis has tested sterling further. The 2008 financial crash hit Britain particularly hard because its financial sector was the most highly leveraged of any major economy. Banks that were once symbols of imperial strength had to be nationalized overnight. In 2016, the Brexit vote sent the pound plunging more than 10%, its sharpest single-day decline in modern history. And in 2022, when Prime Minister Liz Truss announced unfunded tax cuts, the gilt market nearly collapsed. Bond yields spiked to levels not seen in decades. Pension funds came within hours of insolvency. The Bank of England had to launch emergency interventions to prevent a full-blown sovereign debt crisis. A sitting prime minister was removed, not by voters, not by parliament, but by the bond market. Now look at where Britain stands today. Public sector net debt has reached nearly £3 trillion, roughly 96% of GDP. Debt interest payments alone now exceed £126 billion per year, more than Britain spends on defense, transport, and public safety combined. 30-year gilt yields have hit their highest levels since 1998. The pound now accounts for approximately 5% of global foreign exchange reserves, down from over 55% just 70 years ago. It is the fourth most traded currency in the world, but that rank is sustained by London's role as a financial hub, not by British economic might. And here is the question that makes this story urgent. If the dollar, the currency that replaced sterling, itself begins to lose reserve status, what happens to the pound? History suggests the answer is brutal. When a dominant reserve currency falls, the secondary currencies beneath it don't rise, they get dragged down. The dollar's share of global reserves has fallen from 71% in 1999 to under 59% today. China is building alternative payment systems. BRICS nations are settling trade in local currencies. Central banks are accumulating gold at record rates. If the world moves away from a dollar-centered system, Britain has no empire, no commodity wealth, no manufacturing base, and no independent financial architecture to fall back on. Sterling's survival depends entirely on the world's continued trust in London's financial infrastructure, a trust that has been shaken by crisis after crisis. The lesson of the pound is the lesson of every reserve currency in history. They don't die in a single day. They die in stages, through wars financed on credit, through debts that compound faster than growth, through political leaders who mistake prestige for power. The pound survived its fall from dominance. Whether it survives the next one depends on whether the people who depend on it understand what history has already made clear. No currency is permanent, and no empire's money outlasts the empire itself. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. It's financial system, and history leaves clues. I show you where the money leads.